From Studio 67 in Florida's capital county, it's time to get fact-checked.
Access granted.
Good people of Florida, welcome back to another episode of Fact Check. It is week 2 of the 2024 legislative session, and we are getting after it. We are at T-minus 49 days until sine die. But in the meantime, stay with us, and we'll keep you updated every week. As always, I'm Jared Grigas. I am joined by Amir Warren and
How we doing, everybody?
Mooney. You guys say what's up?
Hey, everyone.
And we had a bit of a crazy week. I know we're all going to sleep pretty well tonight, but we will recap for you guys. We kicked off the week with FAC's 2024 Legislative Day at the Capitol. Tuesday and Wednesday, we were flooded with commissioners from all 67 counties who, came and brought their staff for, first and foremost, FAC's Leg Day event on Wednesday, where, we heard from a handful of state leaders, including Ag Commissioner Wilton Simpson, DEP Secretary Sean Hamilton, Secretary of Transportation Jared Perdue, and then Department of Commerce's Laura DeBella. So I think they got a lot of insight into, what's going on at the state level and some priorities for those agencies. And so our commissioners, I'm sure, found a lot of value in that. And then after the morning session, our commissioners and their staff kind of mobilized to the Capitol to meet with their delegation members as well as other key members of the legislature. Hopefully their concerns were heard, and so our county priorities will hopefully be protected. I know a lot goes into this, and it really goes a long way, so we did want to give a shout out to all of our commissioners and staff that came to town, and for those that are just leaving, safe travels back, obviously, and we'll see you again next year. For those that were here, you could not have come at a better time. The term limits bill was up this week in both chambers, and so we had a handful of commissioners that were able to go to the podium and make our county voices heard on our concerns. I think Courtney Mooney has got a little more to say about that one. Courtney, what was going on with that this week?
Yeah, so we had quite a few county commissioners show up and testify on this, just like Jared was saying. Bob McKee stood up at the podium during both hearings of the Senate and House bill to testify, and thereon after the commissioners followed. The Senate bill was up first on Tuesday, and it did pass 5-3, and then Friday morning today it was up again in the House, and
there was an amendment on that one.
Yeah,
correct?
So the House did have an amendment that changes the 8 years to 12 years. So, it's kicking us a little bit further down the can, but ultimately it's not what we want, and we're really leaning towards referendum at the ballot.
Well said, Courtney. I think that's obviously the point we have to continue to drive home. Obviously, 12 years looks better on paper than 8 years, but this is still, taking away that choice from the people and their ability to, get this done at the ballot box. That is a point we will continue to hammer. There's no reason to fix what isn't broke, and I know that a handful of our commissioners did bring that up. One point that, our FAC President Bill Truex brought up is that he actually defeated an incumbent to earn his seat on the county commission.
Right.
And so, that's just one additional layer of, there are already mechanisms in place to provide for turnover at the county commission level.
Yeah, and our counties that want it already have it. They have their term limits set in stone, and this shouldn't be up to the
I think
legislature.
we said there's what? We've got 20 charter counties, and I think we said that 11 of them have already implemented term limits at the county level,
yeah.
if I'm not mistaken. So, like I said, they're trying to reinvent the wheel to fix a problem that simply isn't broken in the first place. But again, thank you to all our commissioners that came out for that one. These guys are pros. They were awesome up there, so appreciate you guys. With that being said, we will kick it over to Amir for another bill that has been, giving us a little bit of heartburn lately. That is the mobility fees package.
So this week, in the Florida's House Ways and Means Committee, we heard Representative Robinson's HB 479, which is again the companion to Senator Martin's 688, the Alternative Mobility Funding Systems. At this committee meeting, we heard opposing testimony from Bob McKee, as well as a wave in opposition by Palm Beach County's delegation.
And this thing was getting pretty heated up there. I mean, the back and forth was
and
intense.
the biggest thing for us too, and what Bob pointed out, that is a problem or could present to be a problem for counties, is the amended language they added in Florida Statute 163. Again, this language was talking about the local municipality that issues the building permit is subsequently the entity that collects the impact fees, which can present holdout problems later down the line.
They are. I mean, it's Tallahassee putting their thumb on the scale here when this can be resolved at the local level, and already has been in a number of communities. And so, like I said, like Amir said, we will be opposing this bill. Every time we see it, this was a retread from last year to some extent, but, we just got to keep chipping away at this one. Next up, we're going to circle back to Courtney. This is one we've been making some progress on, but still work to be done here. That is House Bill 665, dealing with batch permitting after approval of a preliminary plat. So, Courtney, why don't you take us through a little what's going on there?
All right, thanks, Jared. So House Bill 665 by Rep. McLean did pass in committee this week, and it is now the committee substitute. We've been working with the bill sponsor on this one to get it in the right position so it'll work for counties and the communities within it. The purpose of this bill is just to get batch permitting out in a large-scale development when those developers are waiting for that final plat approval. And the difference between these two is the preliminary plat is basically everything in detail that the subdivision will look like, and when it gets to the final plat stage, that's when all the administrative stuff is happening, when addresses are being produced, when partial ID numbers are being produced. So this allows the developers to go ahead and start developing the communities while the backside administrative stuff is going on.
Yeah, well said, Courtney. We've said it before and we'll say it again. Obviously, I think at the county level, nobody is against getting building permits out more efficiently, but this is something that has to be done responsibly, with kind of keeping an eye on the technical and the public safety aspects of it. And so, we have been speaking to a number of county staff and in the building department space, and just kind of getting feedback and relaying that to the sponsors wherever we can. And, I got to be honest, I did not even know what a plat was as of 6 months ago, and now, I'm out here dreaming about plats every night. So.
Me either. I think we've all, the Florida Building Code we are up on.
When we get this thing, finally taken care of, I will fall to my knees and out of joy. The next one is a bad preemption that we're going to talk about, one that they have just hammered for the better part of a decade now, as Jeff Scala eloquently said in his testimony this morning. It is Groundhog Day, ladies and gentlemen. They have revised the definition of public works project 3 times now in the last several years.
In the past 8 years.
In the past 8 years, this will be the 3rd revision of public works project. And what this one does under House Bill 705 by Representative Schoaf, it adds the word local to the definition. So currently a public works project is a project that is funded by any degree of state funds. That could be $1, and it's a public works project. They're now adding local funds to that criteria as well. If there are any state or local funds, being poured into a construction project, it's considered a public works project, which is preempted. Specifically, local governments are preempted from the consideration of, controlling the wages, the benefits, or, even the staffing levels of their contractors, of the vendors involved in these projects. And so obviously with local funds now included to that definition under this bill, that preemption is going to extend to sole source funded projects with nothing but county dollars.
Right, and then don't forget the amendment that was filed on this.
There was a strike all amendment that, the bill initially actually had a protection that counties could still, in the scenario where they're the only ones providing funding for a project, they could still practice geographic preferences in their procurement process. And so, if they wanted to keep those dollars, within their local economy as opposed to contracting out elsewhere, they could do that. because they're supposed to be the stewards of these public dollars, and they obviously want to keep that flowing through their local economy. That protection was removed in the strike all amendment that was adopted this morning, and so this bill has gone from bad to worse, and FAC will be opposing it going forward. With that being said, we have the Live Local Glitch Fix bill. Courtney, you want to take us through that one?
This bill was supposed to be up in the Senate this week, and it got temporarily postponed. We haven't seen any other amendments get filed on this just yet. I believe it got temporarily postponed because we are trying to work out a few more kinks, and it's just not ready to be up. The House bill version by Representative Lopez has been referred out to its committees, but it has not been placed on an agenda just yet. So we may be seeing that come up next week once we get those calendars out.
Yeah, as Courtney said, we're committed to getting this thing right. This is a follow-up to Senate Bill 102 from last year. That was the Live Local Act. And, we've received feedback from a number of county stakeholders about, how we can kind of make the provisions of that bill a little more airtight, and so we've tried to incorporate those as much as possible, and we're chipping away and making progress there. Going to kick it back over to Amir now to talk about a bill in FAC's legislative action plan for 2024. Amir, what's going on with cash payments?
Yeah, no, for sure. So this is going to be SB 106, which Jared alluded to. It's going to be focused on acceptance of cash payments by businesses. This was heard on Wednesday in the Senate Appropriations Committee of Agriculture, Environment, and General Government. Again, for those who are unaware or haven't been following the bill, this bill is sponsored by Senator Jones, and it put forward a mandate for certain businesses to accept payment in cash. And notably, the bill bars businesses from charging fees or imposing conditions on cash transactions, entrusting rulemaking and enforcement authority to the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, also known as DACS. Violation of this requirement may result in civil fines. Again, this bill has a House companion, which is HB 35, sponsored by Representative Rudman. Again, like Jared also said, this bill is part of FAC's legislative action plan, so we did have FAC staff present at the committee to waive in support of SB 106.
And last up for bills for the week, Senate Bill 1082 by Senator Collins is sort of a follow-up to a similar bill last year that imposes a preemption on local government regulation of housing of agricultural workers. Specifically, the bill prohibits a government entity from restricting construction or installation of housing for ag workers on land that is classified as agricultural. This was one that we kind of massaged a little bit last year, got to a place that we were a little more comfortable with by the end. It ultimately did not pass. Kind of the holdups here have been kind of the conditions under which this is preempted. The housing structures still have to meet a number of criteria in order to be, eligible for this, and so that's something we've been keeping a close eye on and making sure that the criteria are appropriate. But this is one that we are keeping a close eye on going forward. And last but not least, Amir was in the Revenue Estimating Conference this morning with tax black belt Bob McKee, and they picked up some good info on the state's economic outlook. We've been flush with cash for a couple of years now, but Amir, can we expect that to continue this year?
Yeah, and I'll save you guys the economic crash course, but the biggest notable thing is, yes, we are still flush with cash. State economists were surprised by revenue collection. It surpassed expectation. We're looking at $1.2 billion or 6% surplus since last year's fiscal. We're looking at a $1.2 billion or 6% surplus since the fiscal year start. The RAC projected growth for fiscal year 24-25 amounts to the total of $585.5 million, and resulting in a 2-year combined increase of $2.1 billion.
You guys heard it here first. The budget's going to be massive again, so go out and get your earmarks and your member projects taken care of. I think that just about does us for the week. Do we have any housekeeping items to share?
Next week on Thursday, it is Rural County Days. That'll be held in the Capitol Courtyard from 8 to 2. So please stop by your Rural County posts if they're here.
Good deal.
They'll be set up, and maybe bring them some hot chocolate. It's probably still going to be a little cold.
Oh my gosh, this week was absolutely brutal out there.
Yeah. For those of you that didn't attend Legislative Day, when we woke up in the morning, it was 25, and the feels like was 17.
There were not enough layers in the world.
I think everyone panicked a little bit about this.
I was thawing out for the next 2 hours, I think. But for those of you in rural counties, we're looking forward to seeing you next week, hopefully. And with that being said, I think we are going to go ahead and sign off.
Bye, everyone. See you guys next week.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks for listening.
Enjoy the weekend.